The other ones to cover would be to jump back to page 1 and take a look at these. Number 2, it says that you have your parent graph f of x equals x squared, which is a quadratic, it's a parabola. They want you to transform it right 4 units. 4 units to the right is really an h shift, and the h is always inside parentheses with x. So instead of f of x equals x squared, you're going to have y equals, or f of x equals x minus 4 parentheses squared. The h is inside parentheses with x, and you think opposite. The right 4, you're going to put it in as a minus 4. And what about the next thing? The next thing is a vertical stretch by 3. So if I actually take this guy and vertically stretch it by 3, that means I need to change y, which is the whole function. I need to multiply the whole thing by 3. So changing it, vertically stretching it by 3, it'll be y equals 3 parentheses x minus 4. The inside of the parentheses don't change, to the second power. And finally, the last part is that you want to move it 1 down. Okay, so if you think about moving it 1 down, that means that it's a k value of minus 1. So I might as well just throw it on here at the very end. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your final answer right there. This did get vertically stretched by 3. This did get moved 4 to the right and 1 down. The last one, you want to reflect it over the x-axis. That's fine. Instead of y equals x squared, it's going to be y equals negative x squared. That's a reflection over the x-axis. And then it says shifted 7 down. Well, that's easy. Just put a k value of minus 7 to shift it 7 down. That got recorded. Okay, so, yeah, we're recording. Number 9, they want you to write an equation of the quadratic function with the vertex, -3, -5, and passing through 0, 4. So we always need to take what they give us, identify it, and use it for what we don't know. So they're giving us a vertex, which is a h value and a k value. And they're also giving us an x and y value because they give us another point. Here's x, here's y. And what we need to do is write the equation for the quadratic, and the easiest equation that I think of is the vertex form equation, which is y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. And we're going to plug in all these values to find a, because you see what we need is an h, a k, and also an a. So we have the h, we have the k, we don't have the a, so we need to find the a. If I had the a, the h, and the k, I'd be able to write my equation and I'd be done. So what I'm going to do is plug in everything. I'm going to plug in my y value, which is 4. I'm going to plug in my a value, which I don't know, so I leave it as a. I have the parentheses, I have the square. Inside the parentheses, I have a 0 for x, minus h, which happens to be a -3. And yes, you have to change the sign. So it's really going to be a 0 plus 3 in there. Let's not forget about the plus k, which in this case is a -5, or plus -5. Inside the parentheses, you're going to have 0 plus 3, which is 3, and then 3 squared is 9, but you have to multiply it by a, and then -5 at the end. So you really have 9a minus 5 equals 4. That's your equation, and all we need to do is solve that equation by adding 5 to both sides. 5 there, 5 there. You're going to, oh man, 9 equals 9a, divide by 9, a equals 1. Okay, it got quiet all of a sudden because everybody left and now I'm all alone. Yes, it's pretty sad, I'm all alone. Anyway, where was I? We found our a value of 1. So now that we know that h is -3, k is -5, and a is 1, now we could write our equation in vertex form as our final answer. Y equals 1 parentheses x minus h, which is minus -3, squared plus k, which is a -5 at the very end. And of course we could simplify this. You don't want to leave it minus negative. It has to be plus 3, especially because inside the parentheses it looks like if it's opposite of the original -3 that the h is. So your final equation is y equals, you don't even need the 1 actually, just x plus 3 squared minus 5. Let's move on to a different problem. Let's jump back to 7 and 8. Okay, 7 and 8. 7, they give us an equation, and they want us to write the quadratic function in standard form. And this equation is obviously not in standard form. This is in intercept form. So we want to rewrite it in standard form. So there's our standard form equation. And as you could see, this is an intercept, this is in standard. Standard does not have parentheses like this does over here. So we need to get rid of those parentheses. How are we going to do that? We're actually just going to simplify it by distributing. So one option is to distribute 4 times x and 4 times negative 3. And then distribute that new binomial of 4x minus 12 into the other binomial. But I kind of like distributing the parentheses into each other first. So I want to do that. I want to distribute x times x, that's x squared. X times 5, that's 5x. And then you have negative 3 times x, that's negative 3x. And then negative 3 times positive 5, that's negative 15. Then those two middle terms, the positive 5 and negative 3, give you a positive 2 when you combine them, positive 2x that is. And you have the x squared in front and the minus 15 at the end. Now this is still needed to be multiplied by 4. Okay, this outside 4 right here has to come down, and I want to write it right here. So I want to distribute that 4, and it's going to become 4x squared. It's going to become plus 8x, and it's going to become minus 60. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our new standard form equation. It's right here. Let me box that in for you. We can now move on to this next one. By the way, the reason why I like distributing the parentheses first is because now you could actually look at this standard form equation and look at it backwards, in the sense that, like, let's say I told you, take the standard form equation and rewrite it in intercept form. Well, you need to know that intercept form has those parentheses, so you know you need a factor to do that. So it would just be doing all of this work but backwards. So what's in common? A 4, an 8, and a 60. Well, you could pull out a GCF of 4, and that's why we have a 4 out here. And then you'd have this quadratic trinomial, which is x squared plus 2x plus 1, minus 15. And what you would have to do is just think what times what is negative 15, that if you combine together gives you a positive 2, and that would be a positive 5 and a negative 3. So you'd be able to completely go backwards and change your standard form into intercept form. And that's actually what they're asking on this next question. So down here on this next question, we want to change this standard form right here into intercept form. That's what it says right there, into intercept form. So what I want to do is factor. I want to pull out the GCF, which happens to be negative 1. Now, why do I want to pull out a negative 1? That way I'll have a positive x squared left over. And of course, instead of a plus 11, you'll have a minus 11x. And over here, instead of a minus 24, you'll have a plus 24 if you pull out that negative 1. And now you could look at the inside and think, okay, what times what is the last number that if you combine is the middle number? So what times what is 24 that if I combine gives me negative 11? You could make a list if you'd like. You could say, okay, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and those are all the possibilities. Of course, for it to be negative, for it to be positive 24, it's either that they're all positives or they're all negatives. So which pair of numbers combines together to give you the middle value, which happens to be negative 11? So if you add this, you get 14. If you add this, you get 11. And that's the right number that we want, but it's the wrong sign. So what we're going to do is change the signs of these guys. So we're going to make it a negative 3 and a negative 8. So that's what we're plugging in, a negative 3 and a negative 8. And that is factored. Don't forget to bring down the outside negative 1 and also give it the name f of x. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've done is changed the standard form, standard form right here into intercept form right there.